going on, Dragon Ball fans? Welcome back to another Dragon Ball fan manga review, where today we're going to be reviewing a fan manga entitled Dragon Ball Multiverse, which of course is a fan manga set within its own timeline involving characters from both Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. But the overall concept of Dragon Ball Multiverse involves fighters from different timelines and parallel worlds in which come together for this grand multiverse battle to determine which universe and team is superior than the rest. And for many years now, I've been reviewing all kinds of different Dragon Ball fan mangas and concepts put out there by the community, so today we're going to be diving further into this manga chapter to further understand the depths and details of Dragon Ball Multiverse. And again, if you guys love Dragon Ball and are new to this channel, don't forget to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button alongside enabling all notifications by clicking that bell icon. That way you guys can be notified whenever a brand new video is posted onto this channel in connection to Dragon Ball news, information, updates, and spoilers. Hashtag notification squad. Follow me at Twitter at UnrealEntGaming for more information such as this, in which we kick off Dragon Ball Multiverse manga chapter number 22, exactly where we left off, with the previous fight having to be announced of Vegeta of universe number 13 versus Seed. And we do understand that Seed can't really fly, as one of the Namekians has to carry her on over as she says, "Thank you, what's this gravity, I'm gonna die." And we see how Vegeta says, "Is that enough? Do you forfeit or should I wait 30 seconds? With the girl having to look up right after and saying, naive. And with this glare, we see how her eyes begin to sparkle in switching with Vegeta, and Vegeta having to say, "Wait, what's happening to me?" And then all of a sudden we see how Vegeta seems to transform and saying, "Look at you, dear." And then it looks like almost as if like they've swapped bodies, with the girl having to say, but, and then that's when one of them says, "That's right, you're a woman, and our power levels are now even. We have the same power level, except now you're in a different body you know nothing about. And it's without counting the psychological impact as well. But me, I'm used to that. Goodbye, princess." In which we see how it looks like they almost sort of like have swapped bodies with each other, except as she charges toward the princess, so to say, that's when Vegeta, or this princess, says, "Psychological impact? Is that a joke? I'm a girl, so what?" And just as she punches this imposter, the body swapper goes flying on down into the ground, and we see how Vegeta walks on towards her and saying, "Always the same with these damn magicians." And he kicks her in the stomach, flipping her over and saying, "How pathetic," as she says, "One little trick and they think they've won." And that's when Vegeta says, "Now give me back my powers, I'll need it against the real opponents." Pretty much dogging her out as she looks back up at Vegeta, as Vegeta says, "Good girl," as they finally begin to swap their powers, as Vegeta says, "Much better." And the girl says, "This gravity hurts, what do I do?" Vegeta stands up and saying, "Don't worry, you won't feel it for long." And he unleashes this massive energy blast in which pretty much engulfs the entire top portion of this little planet that they're fighting on, in which the announcer says Vegeta from universe 13 wins. And all of the girls from the other universe in which reside with this female seem to be very upset. And we also get to see how Trunks is in the background and saying, "Dad, you make a pretty cool mother," with Vegeta obviously very upset on this idea, as the announcers say, "And now we call Gast from universe 7 and Cell Jr. from universe 17. As Gohan says, "Who?" And we point at this Namekian. Now this Namekian, as stated in my previous reviews, is supposed to be every single Namekian from universe 7 having to combine their power and fuse into one body. As Cell says, "We need a minute. Your opponent is too powerful. I'll increase your strength." As both Cell and Cell Jr. begin to walk off, and they enter this room, as Cell says, "It's well constructed. The walls are soundproof and our auras are stopped too. You no longer feel the others and the others don't feel us." As one of the Cell Jr. says, "So, I mean, how are you gonna make me stronger, Dad?" And Cell looks down on one of the Cell Juniors and pointing his finger and completely murdering him. So Cell, without cause, his whole plan was to kill off this specific Cell Jr. in creating more, as he opens up his tail and he spits out another, with Cell having to say, "There, I gave this one the most power I could." And they begin to walk off right back outside, as Gohan notices what could they have done, with Vegito having to say, "Aha, I see," with Shin having to say, "But that's not the same one. And as one of the Cell Juniors begins to step forward, he actually charges towards Gast. And Gast having to stand there, not having to be concerned at all, with Vegito knowing exactly what he had done, with Gohan having to say, wait a second. And as the Cell Junior begins to rush towards Gast, he punches him on down into the ground, in which we see how Cell face palms as one of the announcers says, disqualification. Cell Jr. is disqualified for attacking before the match actually began. So within an instant, Gast wins because Cell Jr. attacked before the bell even rang, in which Goten even says he didn't even touch the ring, in which we see out in the distance Super Buu actually laughs by saying, come Master Namek, Vargas gentlemen, you will give him a second chance, will you? In calling for a rematch, as even the fans are saying, come on, we want to fight, we want to see them fight. And essentially through that, we see how the Kaioshins are actually saying this is unacceptable. They continue to break all the rules, with the other Kai having to respond by saying, I would say it is for the opponent to decide, with Gast having to say, I agree to fight. And even Trunks is shaken up by this by saying, oh boy, he speaks, with the announcer having to say, okay, the fight is restarted and the match begins now. And at that given point, we see how Gast begins to power up, even shaking Goku by saying, oh, this Namekian is something, with Oob having to respond by saying, yeah. And at that given point, Cell Jr. also begins to power up as he charges right towards Gast's direction, in which case Gast is supposed to be a supremely high caliber fighter. In his universe, he actually destroyed Frieza, Cell, and Majin Buu, and which is why he is hailed as one of the strongest fighters, as Cell Jr. goes on the attack, and he seems to be attacking him, but absolutely to no avail, as Gast isn't even moving, while Cell Jr. is pretty much rushing all around him, as Gast just pretty much has this very intimidating look on his face as Cell Jr. backs up, and then he begins to charge up his strength in creating the final flash. So he creates the final flash, he shoots the final flash, and the only thing it did, essentially aside from the explosion itself being so large, is ripping Gast's clothing. So we see how even Vegeta says Cell betrayed himself. His Cell Jr. is more powerful than even Perfect Cell knew he would be. And Cell Jr. looks down and he seems to be very shocked that the final flash did absolutely nothing. But just as quickly as he launched his final flash, we see how Gast pretty much unleashes this energy attack through his eyes, which brutally penetrates Cell Jr. right in the forehead. And I will say, this has to be, if anything, one of the most barbaric and brutal looking scenes ever, as we see blood dripping down from the Cell Jr.'s forehead. And just as quickly as he shot him, we see how Gast leaves the ring, and Vegito even said he touched the main core of Cell Jr. as the announcers make the claim in saying victory of Gast of universe number 7, as Vegito casually walks on over to Perfect Cell and saying, don't worry Cell, he will be resurrected at the end of the tournament, well, unless you hatch a dozen others before, I guess, with one of the ring holders having to say, and here is the last fight of the round, in which we see how out of nowhere the Demon King appears as one of the fighters says, so, it's your match for sure, you can come out, nameless one, as one of the ring holders says, Beelzebub of Universe 2 against the Great Demon King Piccolo of Universe 3, in which we see one of the characters say, really, I want an autograph from both, as we see Beelzebub actually say, Demon King, eh? I know the King of Demons, and it does not look like that. You're going to regret pretending to be my father, which insinuates that his father could perhaps be Deborah, as we see Deborah say, this little demon is cool, I would like to have a son just like him, and that's when Babidi says, I mean, did you heal? What's going on? And that's when he turns around and Majin Buu says, I did that, he gave me a candy in return, with Babidi having to say, fool, that was candy that you created for yourself for lunch, what are you talking about, he bribed you, and that's when Demon King Piccolo's in the ring, and he says, what's that ridiculous limp? With Beelzebub having to say, you're not a demon, you're more like a fraud. Say, I'm super heavy on this ball. Me, I'm the real demon. For example, I was given chocolates and I didn't even share them with my friends. In addition, I ate them just before dinner time, insinuating that he's like some sort of like a little badass kid. And Demon King Piccolo doesn't seem to be worried at all, as he says, me? Well, I killed millions of people. And we see how Beelzebub is like, what? Are you out of your mind? You're mad. And just as quickly as he came, we see how Demon King Piccolo says, mad? No, just pure evil, as he attacks Beelzebub, in which you kind of see where we're getting at here, as this little wannabe demon says, oh yeah, I'm a badass for eating chocolate, and Demon King Piccolo replied by saying, well, I killed millions of people, as he attacks him by unleashing energy blast. And we get to see how Beelzebub, for his credit, is seemingly enough avoiding and dodging his attacks, as finally he even swallows one of Demon King Piccolo's attacks and shooting it right back at Demon King Piccolo, with Demon King Piccolo having to say, not bad, but although this attack would have killed you, it doesn't affect me, as he charges right back up at Beelzebub and knocking him down onto the ground, in which the announcers claim winner of the match, Great Demon King Piccolo of Universe 3, in which shortly after the tournament holder says, it's the end of the first round, congratulations to all the challengers, we'll take a 12-hour break, you can sleep, eat, and enjoy your apartment. To the public, our shuttles are now available to take you into your luxury hotels in our universe. As it says, a few hours later for dinner, we will put the tables where you want. You can mingle amongst universes if you wish. So here we get to see how literally everybody is eating. Goku and Vegeta and Trunks are eating alongside Vegito and two different variations of Gohan, as we see Goku saying, another dish please, keep it coming. And all out in the distance, we get to see the final image of the chapter here, with Gotenks having to pretty much fight with Bra over food, Goku and Vegeta having to fight over rice. Every single individual universe is shown just doing their own thing, with one of the announcers having to say, we'll dim the lights and go back into night mode, we wish you all good rest. But over at Frieza's table, it looks like Frieza says, it seems they have several sets of Dragon Balls. Tonight, they will be in our possession. In which, by the end of it, this manga chapter pretty much summarized the sheer brute power of Gast and having to build him up in being one of the strongest competitors in this multiversal tournament. But it also looks like Frieza seems to have some sort of a plot or some sort of, plan in trying to gain the Dragon Balls, because he did confirm that there are several different sets of Dragon Balls, and he assures his brother and his father that they're all going to be in their possession by the end of the night, as we transition into Dragon Ball Multiverse manga chapter number 23, as it says, Namek, December 18th, 762, our heroes traveled from Earth to find the Dragon Balls and revive their deceased friends. This story happens in Universe 7, as we get to see here how Bulma says, why did you get out right away? Do you ever think, couple of idiots? We search for the Dragon Balls now, and there's no signal, like what's going on? As Krillin says, I mean, did you zoom out? And Bulma saying, of course. So they're obviously looking for the Dragon Balls, a very similar concept to what we saw during the Namek arc, except this time we see how Gohan says, wait, something's going on, he's coming right for us, and Krillin having to say, yeah, it's huge, what's going on? And Bulma not understanding what's happening, we see how all of a sudden this Namekian seemingly enough arrives in front of them, and that's when Gohan says, well, hello, Mr. Namekian, and that's when he says, this Namek ship, who did you steal it from? With Krillin having to say, well, no one, it's a Namek who gave it to us actually. With Gohan having to say, in fact, we didn't really ask for his permission either. With Gast having to say, you will pay for that. And as soon as he was just about to attack them, he notices that something comes whizzing on past by him, in which case we even get to see how Bulma says, but is that a Saiyan space pod? It's Vegeta. And Krillin having to say, he already recovered from his injuries? With Gast having to say, you're coming from everywhere, the beginning of a second attack? What is happening right now? With Gohan having to say, Mr. Namek, we aren't with him, he's our enemy. With Krillin having to say, he killed our friends, and one of them was a Namek just like you. With Bulma having to say, yes, and we came here to revive him. With Gast having to say, you talk too much, let me read your minds. And just as that happens, we see how the Saiyan space pod lands and Vegeta emerges, with him having to say, here I am, reduced to using my scouter again. There is only one power level very large, and that is Frieza. Is Frieza alone? And then we get to see how Gast is reading the minds of Krillin and Gohan and saying, their intentions are honest and pure. I see an amazing story. There were indeed Dragon Balls here until a few days ago, and at that one time I wasn't the only inhabitant of this planet. Something is going on. And we see how Frieza even says, so that is a Dragon Ball, with one of his henchmen having to say, this is the one thing of value they have, sir. And then we get to see how even Dodoria says the nearest first village is here. Immortality is not far away. Obviously, Frieza still wants to be immortal. That's his overall goal. And we see how even Guru is sitting there essentially enough dying and saying the lives of our people go out. Nail, a terrible monster comes to us. I made my decision. I hesitated a lot, but I think it's the only way to save us. Nail, you have to fight, but not alone. You must take my power, in which Nail says, I mean, what did you say? You want to sacrifice yourself? With Guru having to say, I have not much more life anyway, at least it'll be useful. With Nail having to say, Grand Elder, I can't do that. With Guru having to say, why not? In you, I will live much longer, and perhaps we will save our people. In which we even get to see how one of the other Namekians elsewhere is very damaged, as he says, you can take it, even with all the Dragon Balls, you will never have your wish anyway. In which even Frieza says, what have you done? You think you could stop me from getting my wish like that? With Zarbon having to say, Master, it seems like all the balls have changed, with one of the Namekians having to say, no, the Grand Elder left us. With the Namekian then having to cry and saying, you don't understand, it's over, there are no more Dragon Balls, you'll never have your wish, and Frieza having to say, right, we are going to kill every last villager before your eyes. Let's see if that changes your mind, in which case we actually get to see how Nail flies away, seemingly enough having to absorb Guru's powers as he flies on over and sees most of the Namekians having to be either killed off, the entire village having to be essentially slaughtered, with Nail having to fight back and shooting at all of the invaders, in which case we even get to see how Nail says, how dare you kill my children, in which he flies over to Frieza, in which Dodoria says, well, this one is stronger than the others. I'm on it, Master Frieza, as Nail powers up and essentially enough having to blow a massive hole in Dodoria's chest, which I personally enjoyed, as Dodoria drops on down into the ground, as Zarbon says he killed Dodoria so easily, his strength must be even greater than the Ginyu squad, in which case we get to see how Frieza says, amazing, really amazing, would you like to join my elite army? As Nail says, leave immediately, otherwise I will kill you too. In which Frieza says, incredible, you deserve a lesson. Do you know my power? It is of, and as soon as he's talking, Nail shuts him up by kicking Frieza square in the mouth, and everyone seems to be shocked that this Namekian actually managed to hit Frieza, in which Frieza says, you bastard, and then he transforms into his second form and saying, you'll regret your actions, you stupid Namekian. And even with that, Nail actually fights back. Unlike what we saw in the show, Nail attempts to actually put up a better fight than how he did originally, but Frieza seems to overwhelm him, headbutting him, punching him in the face over and over and over again, and then sending him off flying out in the distance as Frieza says, let's go and find the other Dragon Balls, and if they don't change back, I'll destroy this stupid planet. And everyone seems to be looking up at Frieza, very, very terrified at the fact that he just essentially enough beat down Nail and presuming that he's dead, in which one of the Namekian villagers says, Nail, is that you? You're still alive? With Nail having to say, my regeneration has greatly improved. I'm sorry, my son. We thought we could repeal the invader, but its strength is greater than we thought. With the Namekian having to say, Grand Elder, are you within Nail? Nothing is lost then. I mean, this is only the beginning. Take my power and the others. We are all prepared to live within Nail in order to defeat this demon. We all prefer living in one soul Namek than dying one by one, which pretty much explains the concept behind Gast and having every single Namekian fuse. As we go back to Frieza and his army, as one of his minions says, it's weird, no one is here, yet we detect many powers before. We can't detect anything. The villagers we saw before, we can't see them anymore, with Frieza having to say, this is too much, I will crush the planet, destroy, crush, you are only destruction, but as long as there is life, Namek is not destroyed, a voice cries out, and we look out and we see this one Namekian sitting on a rock as he says, yours, on the other hand, ends here, with Frieza having to say, you again, you're annoying, with Gast having to say, what you're looking for is useless, as then he unleashes an attack which crushes Frieza's army as he charges down and punching Frieza square in the stomach, in which Frieza then is lying on the ground and saying, this time you've made me angry, I will reveal my true power for the first time, as he transforms into his third state, while he says, transform again as many times as you like, it won't change anything. And similar to how we saw Frieza fight Piccolo during the actual anime. We see how Frieza fires off various different shots, but to no avail as this Namekian extends his hand in literally shutting Frieza's mouth, but also pushing him into the side of a cliff, which again, I would have to say the art design is very, very awesome, as later on Frieza transforms into his final form as he rushes toward the Namekian, and now we have ourselves an all-out battle as Frieza punches him in the face. But just as Frieza is getting sick and tired of this Namekian, we see how Frieza raises his finger and attempts in using his death ball, and then we see how the Namekian is just sitting there very casually and meditating, and Frieza having to say, "Die with your stupid planet," with Gast having to say, "He who lives by the sword will perish by the sword," as Frieza says, "What? I can't move," because it looks like Gast actually paralyzed him while Frieza is holding the death ball. Of course, as the Namekian says, "Go to hell," he fires off one singular shot that seems to catch Frieza, and Frieza having to say no, in which ultimately engulfs Frieza in killing him on the spot, while Bulma says, "You are amazing, the Saiyan will have no chance against you, you can create new Dragon Balls, can't you?" With the Namekian having to say, "Unfortunately, I am a warrior and I lost some of my Namekian abilities." And over in the distance, we see how Kui actually says, "This is the monster who killed Master Frieza," with Vegeta having to remind Kui that his life is saved, but then he goes on to say, "Those are the Earthlings with him. How did they get here? You know, Vegeta, I never liked Master Frieza to begin with," as Kui begins to speak, but Gast also goes on to say, "I cannot make Dragon Balls and I cannot have children. I am the last of the Namekians. I'm sorry for your wish, but you made this trip for absolutely nothing." As Bulma says, "We'll return to Earth then, I mean, too bad," with Gohan having to say, "Say, Mr. Nail, I mean, you're just like Mr. Piccolo, I'll help you if you can," but that's when the Namekian says, "Thank you, but I'm not really Nail anymore, I decided to call myself Gast." As during the epilogue, we see how he appears behind Vegeta and saying, "I will take the spaceship of your ex-chief and go into the universe and search for a solution to revive the Namekian people. You should know how to drive it. Come with me or I shall kill you," which pretty much goes to show the end result of Kui and Vegeta. Now, the overall summary to this is primarily focusing on the Namekians. As did in the previous Dragon Ball Multiverse manga chapter reviews, I explained and went more in depth with the Saiyans, in particular Bardock and him having to defeat Frieza, whereas in here, we see how in a different universe, the Namekians actually fused into one in destroying Frieza, which I think is very interesting considering the fact that the previous manga chapters covered the Saiyans and now we're covering the Namekians, but it also goes to show how in these two particular manga chapters, the Namekians actually had legitimate Namekians, and of course Namekians that were evil, i.e. evil King Piccolo and whatnot, and of course Gast, who seems to be far more powerful than anybody can possibly imagine. Of course, manga chapter number 22 covers the title of Saiyans, Nameks, and other demons, whereas opposed to here, we also get to see the backstory of Gast and how he came to be. So post your comments down below, guys. What are your overall thoughts on these manga chapters? What are your overall thoughts on Gast? How strong do you believe he truly is? And in your opinions, what are your overall thoughts on his backstory? Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are new to Dragon Ball and of course love Dragon Ball, don't forget to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button, guys, alongside enabling all notifications. That way you guys can be notified whenever a brand new video is posted onto this channel. And of course, if you guys enjoyed, leave a like down below. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all in the next edition of Dragon Ball Multiverse. Take it easy, guys. Peace.